Welcome to the Universal Joint Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and my co-host Dustin Fuhs and I are recording this on Saturday, October 3rd, 2020. It's officially fall up here in New England, folks. In fact, I put on a coat earlier today when I went out to run my usual Saturday morning errands because it was down in the 50s. You having that sort of weather up your way, Dustin?
Yeah, we're getting rain and, gorgeous fall colors. I'm sorry, the trees up here with the leaves falling, it brings a Halloween sense into the air with all the death. But I love the idea that, it's literally overnight. Mm-hmm. You'll go from, summer weather into... all the trees are like, okay, well, it's time to go. And, snow is just around the corner. But yeah, it's definitely, I think October kind of snuck up on us up here in Canada.
Yeah, pretty much did the same thing here down in New England. I bring up the cooler fall weather, folks, because, as the temperatures start to dip in Florida, that's typically when the Walt Disney World Resort will begin shutting down its pair of water theme parks for maintenance and refurbishment, because let's be honest, it's only idiots who live in New Hampshire or Canada who actually think that, it's 50 out, time to go swim in a Disney water theme park.
And of course, our friends from the UK, we can't leave out our friends from the UK. We are all in the hot tub together.
There we go, our pasty brothers. Did I ever tell you the story about going to Typhoon Lagoon in December?
No, but this sounds like something I would do as well. So please continue.
Okay. This is December of 1991, and I remember it because my sister and I drove down the eastern seaboard to go to Disney World. In fact, I remember it was 91 because we'd stop at Burger King's along the way and collect the Beauty and the Beast toys that were coming out. Anyway, so we get down to Walt Disney World, and Typhoon Lagoon had been open for 2 years at that point, I think. Mm-hmm. And, so we're just, it's been a while since we've been, so we want to hit all of the stuff we haven't previously been to. And so it's my sister and myself and I think another family friend. And we're in Typhoon Lagoon. We drive to the park. And again, we park in the front row because there's nobody there. And we walk in, and I swear to God, Dustin, there are the three of us in the wave pool, and there are 12 lifeguards around the wave pool looking down at us. And they are all huddled in, they've got their hoodies, their bright red hoodies on, and their sweatpants. And the thing is, the way the acoustics work, I could actually hear them yelling at each other across the pool to the effect of, all right, who's got the least seniority? Because if one of these idiots goes down, I'm not going in.
It's someone from the college program for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And then the worst part of this is I've gone into the pool wearing my glasses. And, then the wave comes up and, pulls the glasses right off my head. And to give you some idea of what can happen when there are only three people in the pool, I immediately get out of the water, go to the lifeguard. I'm so sorry, I lost my glasses. Is there anything you can do? Picks up a walkie-talkie and literally shuts down the wave pool. Just sort of, because there's only three of us in there.
Yeah.
And then again, because that previous conversation that had happened over our heads, this one very angry lifeguard gets out of his hoodie, gets out of his sweatpants, dives into the pool, swims back and forth once or twice, and I think he'd been in the water maybe a minute, and he found my glasses and swam over and was trying to be a good Disney employee, but at the same time, it was kind of through gritted teeth. It's like, here are your glasses, sir. Maybe you want to be more careful with them because I really don't want to get back in this water. Anyway, again, I bring that up because, again, it just in years previous, for example, Blizzard Beach closed on October 28th, 2018, and then reopened January 5th of 2019. And as soon as Blizzard Beach reopened, Typhoon Lagoon that went down for its annual maintenance. It went down on January 6th and then reopened in May 17th of 2019. So, okay, so we've established that there is, in fact, a pattern that Central Florida's water parks follow. They do close for months at a time for their annual maintenance and refurbishment. So let's talk about the news that broke just yesterday about Volcano Bay. How on what is it? It's Monday, November 2nd. It's going to close.
Yeah, and it's not for 4 whole months, which
Mhm.
you said it yourself. When it comes to Universal, they don't close Volcano Bay because they only have the one park. So if you have this opportunity to go back and forth as Disney does, sure, you
Mhm.
always have an offering. But now you're
Mhm.
looking at Volcano Bay where it's a mix of, the seasonal closure, but we're also dealing with the fact that, COVID-19 is still a thing and business is business. So it's probably one or the other with a little bit of a combination.
Well, I see. Here's the thing. Um, Before we started recording today, I went on Google and I hammered on Volcano Bay closed, Volcano Bay closing, and previously the only times that Volcano Bay closed was for cold weather. And in fact, there's what is it? I found a message from November 30th, 2019 that said went out via Twitter. Due to cold weather, temperatures are only supposed to be in the low 60s on both days. Volcano
Mm-hmm.
Bay Water Park will be closed on Monday and Tuesday. By the way, I want to stress this is a tweet from November of 2019. And as far as I know, Volcano Bay will, in fact, be open for business this Monday or this coming Monday. Now, mind you, it's not going to be open on Tuesday because remember, back in August, Universal announced that as of September 8th, they were going from a 7 day a week schedule to a 5 day a week schedule, with the Volcano Bay being closed on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So, you know, um, I don't, I don't know. I know this is quote unquote normal.
Mm-hmm.
This is how the other water parks operate. But as you pointed out, it's like previously this has not had been how Universal operated. The months at a time closure. But again, I think you also provided the very easy answer here that this is COVID-19, and we're doing what we can to Universal doing what they can to stay afloat during this period.
You're right. When it comes to Volcano Bay being, kind of that area where people would go and like escape the theme parks. But the other thing that I was thinking when I was reading all of these notes and all these articles coming out about Volcano Bay, well, the
Mm-hmm.
best example for people who usually go to Volcano Bay outside of locals are the ones
Mm-hmm.
who are at Universal on a multi-day vacation. So they're
Mm-hmm.
staying at one of the hotels. Well,
Yeah.
with the hotels closing
Mm-hmm.
for COVID-19 reasons and reopening a couple here and there, and not having at all capacity that we would usually be seeing in October for Halloween Horror Nights, this
Mm-hmm.
just makes sense because they don't have that guaranteed amount of guests that are going to Volcano Bay to not only have all of the team members employed, but also all of that merchandise and food. There's just no way to staff that business. So, yeah, when this came up, it made sense.
Okay. Now, speaking of merch, as we were pre-gaming, you were mentioning, and you just brought up Halloween Horror Night, that they're offering quite the deal right now when it comes to merch for Halloween Horror Night, right?
Yeah, so you can stop into to Universal Islands or Universal Studios Florida and pick up a package deal. So it's a Jack T-shirt, a poster, and a shot glass. It's a $40 combo, and you get a free Halloween Horror Nights lanyard, which the retail value for that is combined $62. That's not bad. Any way you can
No.
get to buy more stuff, why not? Universal went out and picked up all of this merchandise for Halloween Horror Nights 30, and a lot of it was focused around, icons of the past. So because of that, you're seeing a lot more of these merchandise deals pop up. Like we even saw old posters from Halloween Horror Nights gone by and T-shirts and everything. It's all coming into the Halloween Horror Nights store. So just to expect the unexpected when it comes to these deals. And brand new masks coming out almost weekly at this point. We now have a couple new ones from Harry Potter.
It's so interesting you say that because our buddy BioReconstruct did this very sweet thing. I went down to the post office recently, and there was a box sitting there for me, and inside, I want to say there are 6 to 8 masks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's all of the stuff that's being offered this year, and in fact, that you have to understand that Nancy teaches a water aerobics class, and always likes to dress up for Halloween. And so one of the ones included here that I'm assuming this may be a Jack related mask because it's a red clown nose, green clown lips, and scary broken yellow and brown teeth. And I was like, you should wear that while you're teaching your Halloween class. And Nancy's like, I don't want to frighten the little old ladies. I just want them to be amused. So there's a lovely one of Boris Karloff's Frankenstein monster and the classic Universal Studios logo done in neon that I think Nancy, I think she sniped that one out of the bag. But, thanks to BioReconstruct. And not only that, there's a brochure in here for, what is it? Scarecrow stock, which more and more I see the pictures of those, the more and more impressed I am. Now, speaking of Halloween horror related stuff, you had mentioned, we talked on the last show about the fried brains, and God help us, there's another product you mentioned. Something else has debuted.
Yeah, they've added to the food trucks outside of the Halloween Horror Nights store stolen teeth. Now, when you see stolen teeth, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I'm kind of unimaginative when it comes to that stuff. So just break it to me gently. What are stolen teeth?
It's corn.
Oh,
they put corn with a full seasoning and everything. They put some chips, some like nacho chips around the side, but yeah, it's corn. But they've also played up over inside the Universal Studios tribute store for the Halloween Horror Nights. They do have a strawberry stolen teeth tart.
Oh,
so it's a tart. It has a strawberry glaze on top because of course they did. And they put a layer of chocolate ganache and a fluffy strawberry whipped cream, and the teeth are almost like a chocolate fondant. So yeah, that's something that I wish as a Halloween fan we could see in our day-to-day lives. But I miss it. I miss it.
No, I see. Now here's my problem. That I've been lucky enough, a couple of times when I've been down for various Universal press events to meet with Steve Jason, the executive chef for the resort, and Steve, puts a lot of effort and a lot of artistry and into the food items that are prepared for special events and for new lands in the parks and that sort of thing. I mean, just the stories he used to tell about, trying to put together the menu for baking an authentic crusty burger, or for that matter, the food and, for hog's meat and, 3 broomsticks or the leaky cauldron. But, just, I'm sorry, they test these things months and months ahead of time. So it's hard to me to envision somebody going into work in February, interesting, going into the conference room and, hey, we're doing the testing today on the stolen teeth. Can you come by and, tell us which one is the truly horrifying setup and which one tastes good? And it's just sort of like, I don't know, just when you're going through the stores and the Valentine's candy is still up and then you're coming to work and it's like, well, which of the fried brains do you think is? So speaking of food, though, you did have an update about another denizen of Islands Adventure.
Yeah, our buddy BioReconstruct over on Twitter found a photo of the Osprey enjoying a light meal. I'm assuming that he used mobile ordering. But they found that the Osprey was on top of his favorite perch on the Velocicoaster. eating a fish.
Uh, I okay, well, I'm glad it was a fish because I don't know if you've seen the giant soft-shelled turtles that also lurk in that lagoon, and yeah, that'd be tough to haul up that high. Speaking of the Velocicoaster, and as long as again we're doing a festival of paying tribute to people who break stories down in Florida, I want to give a shout out to Alicia Stella, who I think bagged it. Again, it's eagle eye. No, never mind about Osprey. This woman has an eagle eye.
Mm-hmm.
She went over to the official Universal Orlando website on Friday, September 25th, and just was paging through it and noticed something unusual. And to be specific, the unusual piece of information was listed in the Jurassic Park section of, again, the Islands of Adventure theme park information page. And this is what Alicia saw. All right, so this is how it reads. Step in Jurassic Park and stand in awe and wonder at a land transformed by science after 65 million years. But don't be deceived by the island's beauty because danger lurks behind every corner. Only here can you live the adventure of coming face to face with giant creatures from Earth's past, encounter raptors roaming every day, or take a daring rafting expedition through jungles teeming with dinosaurs. For those brave enough to visit the raptor paddock, you may even be able to carefully approach one of these deadly predators. Then feel the rush of the hunt as you race through the jungle alongside raptors on the Jurassic World Velocicoaster, a new species of roller coaster coming September 2021.
Oh.
Yeah, all right. And so Alicia, God love her, did an image capture.
Yep.
And thank goodness that she did, because by 6 o'clock that night, just a half hour later, this particular sentence has been clipped out of the description. So, but again, given the way Universal operates, one has to ask, did they deliberately put it in there for a short period to create news?
Oh, it's the churro stand thing. Like how Universal wants you to find something but doesn't want to tell you exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I know that feeling all too well. I think we've all been suckered in by that at one point in time.
Yeah, but again, I'm still not convinced it wasn't deliberate. Now, again, remember that they list. We finally also have a confirmed opening. We have a summer of 2021, and interestingly enough, that Universal just put out a new ticket offer that in fact, you're planning on visiting the park this fall or this winter. You can then return. I want to say it's a what is it? A get 3 days free when you buy 2 days, right?
Yeah, and that's for U.S. visitors. Because up to this point, it's been talking about the Florida residents. So this is for all U.S. visitors. You can buy it, and it looks like the tickets can be used through next summer with no blockout dates.
Yeah, in fact, the tickets can be used through August 31st, 2021, which again means you can, in theory, if they make their opening, get on the Velocicoaster. You mentioned the Florida ticket offer, which, by the way, has been extended. A ticket can now be purchased through the 3rd of November. But same drill, that this allows you, if you buy a day, a Florida resident can then get unlimited visits right up until December 24th, right?
Yep. And then they also added that Florida residents have the option of saving up to $100 on select passes to enjoy their annual pass, basically, at this point. So annual and seasonal passes are loaded with benefits and perks, like discounts and special offers. And there's a lot of stuff Universal are doing for their annual pass holders. So you have to pick up your passes now through December 17th. And there are blackout dates for certain passes. Just check online, make sure you're getting the right pass for your family and for what you're thinking about doing. But, you can't go wrong with saving a little bit of money on an annual pass.
And we were just talking about Florida residents. What do you make of this news that broke just early this week about Universal Orlando announcing that they have begun a nationwide search for a developer to create a new affordable housing community in Orange County.
Yeah, this completely came out of the blue. Usually, when you get a press release from Universal, it's talking about an experience, an attraction, something new that's going on within the theme parks or the business, and you kind of know what to expect. Where with this one, it completely shocked all of us because they were talking about a proposal to create affordable housing.
Yep.
And as someone who is a huge fan of anything that brings community together and, doing something for the greater good, this was completely out of left field, and it was great.
No, I agree. That just to give you a Reader's Digest version here, folks, it's 20-acre site. The idea is that they would like to build 1,000 high-quality apartments, which would be located off of International Drive. And Universal is donating the land for this project with the idea that it's a not-for-profit entity and that it will be used to create affordable housing into perpetuity. And, and if all goes according to plan, they will break ground on this in 2022. Just for me, it's fascinating that, here's the company, here's NBC, Universal, Comcast doing something to engender goodwill on the East Coast. What's kind of interesting, though, there were a number of people who linked this to that $125 million deal that Universal made with Orange County last year for a road that would, get people directly to, the Epic Universe site.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm smart enough to actually connect the dots there myself, but yeah, I did this. I have to admit, especially in Florida, especially now. The notion that, somebody is trying to create affordable housing, that's a good thing. But at the same time, what's fascinating is, again, company engendering goodwill on the East Coast. On the other hand, I don't know if you saw the story that broke on Friday in regard to Disney and Universal Studios Hollywood asking Governor Newsom of California not to lock in his theme park reopening plans just yet.
California.
It looks like we're getting ready to go to war here. And this is the thing. I think overall, Governor Newsom has done a good job in regard to California. And yes, COVID. I mean, this poor guy between his, the COVID in the spring and then the fires in the summer and the fall, and now to have COVID rearing its ugly head again. Geez, between Iger stepping away from his economic development council, supposedly because of the governor's attitude toward the theme parks in California, and now the whispers now that both Disney and Universal are going to sick their lawyers on the state because it's just sort of like they feel like he's not moving fast enough.
Yep.
That they're being punished. And on the other hand, if you talk with Newsom's staff, their argument is like, look, I know that Disney has been able to open theme parks in Florida, likewise Universal, but those are these entities where it's easy to social distance, where if you look at Universal Studios in Hollywood and likewise Disneyland or Disney's California Adventure, these are theme parks, resorts built in urban environments that are very tight.
Yep.
And it's just sort of like, especially at this moment where, supposedly the most protected man on the planet just got COVID-19.
Yep.
It's hard to argue that, all the precautions are in place. We're fine. We're safe. Let us open. But geez, it's just get ready, folks. This could turn into a horror show. And speaking of horror shows, when Dustin and I get back from this break, we're going to talk about the Universal Classic Monsters.
Introducing Meta Ray-Ban Display, the world's most advanced AI glasses. With a full color display built into the lens of the glasses, it's there when you need it and gone when you don't. Send and receive messages, translate or caption live conversations, collaborate with Meta AI, and more. Be one of the first to try Meta Ray-Ban Display. Visit meta.com/Meta Ray-Ban Display to book a demo and find your pair.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana.
And we're back. So, Dustin, how familiar are you with the Universal Classic Monsters?
Well, one of the nice things about the Universal Classic Monsters is that they span generations, decades.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just talking about a single monster. There's so much that goes into it. And one of the fun facts about me is that I used to run a Blockbuster back in the day. Mm-hmm. So, and Blockbuster Kids is where you would go to a movie store and you would go through the shelves and figure out what you wanted to watch that night. You'd have to VHS and all that other stuff. But during some of the weeks where we didn't really have a lot of new releases to come out, I would be able to go in through the back catalog and, watch some of these older movies. And I got to be honest, a lot of them I couldn't make it all the way through. And it's not saying that the movies themselves were bad. It was just one of those things that the storytelling aspect had changed so much in the 80 or 90 years since that it was just difficult to get through them. I always tried, but it was always a difficult thing.
Well, look, you're not wrong. But just last night, Nancy and I were sitting here and we're flipping around the tube, and we arrive on Turner Classic Movies, and they are showing the original from 1931, Dracula.
Okay.
And it's one of these things where I really don't know these films as well as I should. In fact, you mentioned Epic Universe, which is supposed to have its own classic Universal Monsters Land, and I feel like I should watch this. I should, I should refresh my memory of these characters, because remember, that if the blueprints that have leaked out are true, one of the central, attractions of this thing is going to be Dracula's castle. So I'm sitting there, and Nancy and I watched this for about a half hour before we turned to each other and go, "This is terrible." I mean, it's really, it's Bela Lugosi. I mean, I get that the visual, everyone, oh my God, but it's such a strange acting style, and in fact, what's kind of interesting is, I want to say the actor's name, Edward Sloan. The gentleman who played Dr. Van Helsing. It turns out that both Bela Lugosi and Mr. Sloan both had been in the Broadway show. That had debuted in New York in 1927. And so, they had very theatrical performances that maybe somebody should, come on, rein it in. But here's the genuinely interesting part about Dracula that I didn't necessarily enjoy as much of the movie as I saw last night. In fact, I used our DVR to start recording it, and it's like, okay, let's find something that's actually entertaining to watch. But I wanted to learn more today, so I was pulling out some books, and I found out Dustin, today or this week, it's 90 years from when they started shooting Dracula on the Universal lot out in Hollywood. In fact, production started Monday, September 29th, 1930. And for a lot of folks, they argue that Dracula was the film that actually launched the Universal Classic Monsters franchise. Now, mind you, there are other folks who would argue, look, let's be honest, it's not that film. It's actually Hunchback of Notre Dame, which Universal released in September of 23. That movie Cost the studio $125 million to make back then. $1.25 million.
I was like, that's a decent number. But
Sorry,
yeah, 1.2.
1.25. Not sorry. Move the decimal point, folks. Sorry. Which, by the way, is nearly $33 million in 2020 dollars.
Wow.
Use the inflation calculator there. But Hunchback went on to sell 3.5 million worth of tickets worldwide. Again, adjusting for inflation, that's $92 million today, an astronomical sum back then, especially when you consider that back in a movie ticket cost 15 cents. So anyway, Hunchback, huge hit for Universal, which is why right after that, they decide, we got to get another one of those. So 2 years later, they're releasing, it's another elaborate period piece. It's another film that stars Lon Chaney. It's also set in Paris. But this one is Phantom of the Opera and goes out into theaters November of 25. Not quite as successful as Hunchback. It cost the studio $1 million to make and goes on to sell $2 million worth of tickets worldwide. But again, this is a time when Hollywood is changing. Just a year or so up the line, it's the Jazz Singer comes out in October of 27, and sound comes in, and now everybody in the industry is like, okay, is that the future? Or is this a fad? And while they're trying to figure that out, boom, here comes the stock crash of October of 29. And suddenly people don't have 15 cents to spare to go to the movies. They need to spend it on things, frivolous things like food and shelter. So this is a really strange period because, Hollywood kind of panics as well. How do we get people back into theaters? And Carl Laemmle Jr., who is the son of Universal Pictures founder Carl Laemmle, he was actually the head of production at Universal from 1928 to 1936. Carl goes to his dad and he says, look, I have an idea. All right. The way right now, it's tough to get people back into theaters. What we need to do is another cinematic spectacle. We need to do a film that's on the same sort of scale of Hunchback and Phantom, but something has a little horror to it, which is why this is the winter, early spring of 1930. Laemmle Jr. goes to his dad and says, we should buy the film rights to Dracula. And, the reason that Carl is pitching this to his, Carl Jr. is pitching this to his dad, is that he'd seen the stage version of Bram Stoker's novel during its 8-month-long run at Broadway's Fulton Theater back in the fall of 47.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw how, women in the audience would swoon whenever Bela Lugosi would, use the character's supposedly supernatural powers to seduce and control female members of the cast. And also, we talked about Edward Van Sloan, the guy who played Van Helsing, and that Laemmle especially enjoyed the moments in this play where these two characters, where the professor matches wits with Lugosi's centuries-old vampire. So, just to be clear here, Laemmle Jr. wasn't pushing his dad to acquire the film rights to Bram Stoker's novel because he wanted to make a movie with Bela Lugosi and Edward Van Sloan, but rather because he was looking for a way to lure Lon Chaney back to Universal Pictures. You see, on the heels of the success of Phantom of the Opera back in 1925, Chaney had been hired away by MGM, and for the past 5 years, he was under exclusive contract for that studio. But Chaney's 5-year deal was due to expire in 1930. And Laemmle thought that if he had the right project to dangle in front of Lon at the right time, Chaney could then be persuaded to return to Universal, where he could then reunite with the team that had helped him create his earlier masterpieces, 1923's Hunchback or 1925's Phantom. But where this gets interesting, especially when you think about what the classic Universal monsters mean to the company today, when Laemmle brings his Dracula idea to his dad in early 1930, Laemmle Sr. first says no. And there's a great book by David Scull called Hollywood Gothic, which actually it does a brilliant job of tracking Dracula's, moving from a novel to a stage piece to the screen. But Scull actually quotes Lammle Sr. saying he he didn't believe in horror films. People don't want that sort of thing. It's morbid. So I would imagine the people who run Halloween Horror Night would have a very different thing to say about that.
Or Netflix. Like, look at some of the things that people like, the fact that some of the most popular podcasts right now are murder mysteries. Like, there's a lot of folks out here. Now, I did have a quick question with regards to the 5-year deals that Cheney signed with MGM. So it wasn't a 5-picture deal.
No.
It was, we have you under contract for 5 years. However many projects we can get out the door in that 5-year process, that's what we have.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because, yes, the Hollywood would eventually translate to a per project contract footing. But in this case, it was the effect of, we have you for a set period of time. I want to say, this is kind of the same thing that happened with Buster Keaton.
Mm-hmm.
He went from being, a guy who ran his own studio to going under contract to MGM, and then, he would be producing 3 and 4 movies a year for MGM. And it was, much the same way with Cheney. And but the other thing, frankly, that helped with when it came to Lammle Jr. pitching his dad about we need to get Cheney back here was that, well, remember, we talked about how sound came in October of 27.
Mm-hmm.
So, and face it, this is the end of the stock market crashes, and people, that get nervous, and the whole notion is, how can we make movies without making movies? And so they turn to the Universal turns to its own film catalog, and they look at Phantom of the Opera, and it's one of these things where it's like, well, wait a minute, could we turn that into a sound film? And it really, in a weird sort of way, this is Star Wars, the special edition, but only, that literally 70 years earlier.
Yeah.
What they do is they call back to the studio Mary Philbin and Norman Carey. These are the very same actors who played the romantic leads of the silent version of Phantom of the Opera from 1925. They bring them back to the studio in 1929 to reshoot every one of their scenes in the movie, but with sound. And then what they do is they edit these new sounds, scenes into the old print of Phantom of the Opera. They re-release it with a new synchronized musical soundtrack and effects laid in. And, it goes out into theaters February of 1930, under the Universal banner. It's a smash hit all over again.
Mm-hmm.
It sells another $1 million worth of tickets. And so, this is, so here's Carl Lammle Jr. going to his dad. It's like, look, it's we should do this. We should get Lon back here. We should have him do Dracula. And then what he really wanted to do was, in fact, he was so passionate about this idea, he turned around and went to the Gaston Leroux estate. He was the author of the 1910 novel that Phantom of the Opera was based on, and secured the rights to do a sequel.
Oh, wow.
So the idea was that Dracula, Dracula with Lon Chaney would come out as, to announce that, Lon Chaney is back at Universal. And then, they do a sequel to his biggest hit, only this time it's going to be in sound. And this time it's going to feature scenes that are shot in color, which, as strange as that sounds, as far back as 1929, Paramount and Warner Brothers were releasing movies with a 3-color process, or excuse me, a 2-color process. It was only, when Walt Disney actually embraced the 3-color Technicolor process, things really took off with that format. But again, Phantom of the Opera sequel is going to be followed by, it's going to follow a Lon Chaney version of Dracula. So all, and Dad's like, okay, fine, go. All right, so, he has to first secure the rights to Bram Stoker's novel, which he does in June of 1930. And then he has to put together a plan to woo Lon back. So step one is to obviously put together a killer script. for this movie version of Dracula. So, midsummer of 1930, Carl Laemmle Jr. hires Louis Bromfield to work up a treatment for this. And again, it's going to be a prestige film, so it's $1 million budget. And so Bromfield teams with screenwriter Dudley Murphy, and then they come up with a killer gimmick for the movie version of Dracula, one that Lon Chaney just wouldn't be able to resist. And the gimmick is that Bromfield and Murphy wanted Chaney to play two roles in this proposed Universal production. They wanted him to play the title role of the movie, as well as Dracula's arch nemesis, Professor Van Helsing. So, it's literally, it's the very first picture that Lon Chaney comes back to Universal. You get twice as much Lon Chaney because he's playing the two lead roles in this.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the problem. Chaney's contract with MGM isn't officially up yet. So Lon really can't legally talk with Carl Jr. But evidently there were several discreet back channel conversations, and Chaney was supposedly very tempted by the idea of returning to Universal, a place where he had two of his biggest hits, and then getting the chance to play Dracula and Professor Van Helsing. But then the unthinkable happens. August 26, 1930, Lon Chaney dies of a throat hemorrhage. What's so weird about this story, Dustin, is it's kind of Chadwick Boseman only, again, 90 years ago.
Yeah, he was only 47 years old. Mm-hmm. Who would have thought at this point in time? Like, imagine someone who is in their prime, all of a sudden, overnight is gone. And you're completely right. It's the whole Black Panther thing where they're talking about this is what's going on. They're spending money. They're getting everyone excited. And then all of a sudden, overnight, well, no one really knew what was going on with the diagnosed, cancers and such.
And that's, again, the parallels are uncanny because it's like, evidently, Lon had found out in 1929 that he had bronchial lung cancer and had deliberately kept the news quiet because, again, it's kind of the Chadwick thing. It's like, was hoping that with aggressive treatment and surgery, he might beat this back. So here we are. Remember how we started out the story? This week, 90 years ago, October 29th, 1930, production of Dracula gets underway. And yet, at the same time, we have Lon Chaney, the proposed star of this film, tragically passing away 5 weeks before production is actually supposed to get underway. So how is it we get from Lon Chaney to Bela Lugosi so quickly? We'll talk about that on the next Universal. Now, speaking of things we love, what are we up to in the social media podcasting sphere other than the Universal Joint Podcast, Dustin?
Honestly, it's a lot of trying to figure out what else to talk about instead of theme parks because it's just such a weird time. So Jill and I have actually put together a new project called Wi-Fi Adventures. And the idea is we're talking about not just our home in Toronto with a lot of, touristy and, dining and that kind of thing, but also thinking about outside the box when we go on our travels to New York and to other places in Canada and down to Florida, what are our own personal experiences. So we put that up. It's been fun to kind of get the responses of folks who are doing more staycations. And yeah, outside of this, the Universal Joint, it's really quiet. Just a lot of seeing what people are doing at the haunted houses, which we didn't really talk about it during the show, but they're back up and running. So we kind of left a little bit of a cliffhanger on our last show, but it looks like the haunted houses are sticking around. They're doing them daily. And if you are interested in getting back into that Halloween mentality, just head over to Universal Studios Florida. Obviously, check online first, see what the day is looking like. But yeah, Halloween is still over there in full force.
Now, but that said, and when we were pre-gaming today, you were mentioning that where were you? You had just gone to a Michael's, right?
Yeah, it was really weird. So we went into a Michael's because it's always fun to, be around Halloween stuff, even though it's 2020. And walked in, and all of their Halloween and fall stuff was all 40% off. They also had some buy one, get one free, which was very shocking for us because you look at Halloween, we're still a few weeks away, and by the 1st of October, everything's on discount or clearance. So that was very eye-opening. Honestly, you go to some of the shops where you pick up candy, and it's all on sale, which you usually don't see in regular years. So knowing that it is not a regular year, there's a lot of other things that are coming up, and I did want to mention this towards the end of the show. We know that there's a lot of hardships going on by way of cast members and team members losing their job. 28,000 over at Disney, along with, team members not being able to come back from a furlough. It's just a difficult time for a lot of folks. So what I wanted to do is just let people know, if you are one of those folks who lost your job out of no, fault of your own, this isn't your fault. We all didn't come up with COVID. It happens. Please reach out. If you need help with resume or thinking outside the box on, what you should do now that, potentially we won't have the theme parks in the same level for at least the next couple of years. Who knows? Please reach out. Send us an email, reach out on Instagram or Twitter. We're more than happy to, help out as much as we can. And if that's as simple as just being a soundboard, we're always available. So yeah, just give us a shout. And yeah, we'll see what the rest of the year has in store.
It's very sweet of you to offer. Yeah, it's a strange time. I got no doubt. I mean, that's, Glenn and I on our most recent Disney Dish touched on the 28,000 Disney cast members that were, again, and this isn't just the parks, it's also Imagineering, it's also the cruise line. It's a lot of different arms of the company. And, I'm sure this will be an ongoing story as everybody, that's the thing, especially headed into the fall.
Yeah.
Where, for example, I don't know, you've seen the national commercial that Disney is doing right now, where it is all about the holidays. I mean, it is all about, hey, come on down here to see the Christmas stuff, please. I'm begging you. So yeah, we'll keep on top of that here. We'll keep on top of the Universal aspect of that here. We'll keep on top of that, the Disney aspect over at Disney Dish. But again, same thing, with Drew and I with our fine tuning podcast. We've been keeping tabs on all of the work that's being done on Disney television shows and feature films, from people who are again, they're doing all of this from home. Just the notion of trying to producing a full length animated film is tough enough without having to do it from your living room.
And have you seen some of the behind the scenes things on a separate topic, but the South Park when they brought out their pandemic special, and seeing just the amount of equipment that the production team had to send out to their individual artists, and how they had to upgrade all of the internet from megabytes up to 100 gigabyte download speeds and everything. And it's just, there are things like that are going on that we want to recognize with Disney and Universal. But yeah, it's getting really interesting. I know it's tough to talk about like what will happen on the other side when everything gets back to somewhat of a normal thing. But for the time being, it's very interesting seeing how some of these productions are making things work.
Oh, absolutely. And at the same time, if you look at something like, as Aaron Adams, the gentleman who edits a lot of the podcasts here, what we'll be talking about on Marvel less Disney. If you look at Marvel every time you turn around is announcing some sort of new limited series. I mean, we've got casting news on Ms. Marvel.
Yep.
We got, not only casting on She-Hulk, but also the showrunner, prospective directors. We've got news about that Samuel L. Jackson, project that's in the works. I mean, it's just Marvel is just sort of like, yeah, pandemic, whatever. And on the Lucasfilm side, just in fact, Dan Z and I were just talking about, in fact, again, amazing COVID story. You had Tony Gilroy, the gentleman who came in and did the rescue mission on the original Rogue One, Star Wars story, and how he was actually working on the spin-off series, and they're getting ready to shoot in London, and it was just one of these things where Tony, who lives in New York, was staring down the barrel of, okay, so if I leave here, I have to go to the UK, quarantine for 2 weeks. We work on the show. Then I want to come back and visit my family for the holidays. That means I fly back and I got to quarantine here for 2 weeks. And then after the holidays, I got to, get on a plane, fly back to the UK, quarantine again. And it's just sort of like 6 weeks out of, the 6 to 8 months that he was going to be over at the UK working on this thing. And it's just sort of like, it's not worth it. The weird thing is he's still the showrunner. He's still an executive producer. He's just not going to direct physical episodes. He's going to be doing all of this work from his home in New York.
Yep.
But again, this is the world we live in now with COVID-19, and that everybody is just doing the best they can under these circumstances, with the hope that this won't be the way it is forever.
Well, and look at someone like LeBron James. He's been in the NBA bubble for months now, it seems like. But yet, and that's in Orlando, but knowing that his production company, Spring Hill Company, actually just entered into a 4-year first look film deal with Universal. So there's a lot of things that are going on outside of the world that people are just realizing, hey, if we're in a bubble or if we're dealing with quarantine, you can still make projects. You just have to learn to think outside the box and realize that, we all have resources that we should be looking towards. And something like the Universal Joint Podcast is a great vehicle to talk about not just the parks, but the movies, but we're also thinking, okay, what's going to happen when this is all done? Velocicoaster, summer of next year. Awesome. Is the Velocicoaster going to be the same level of Hagrid's? That's going to be a great conversation that we'll be able to talk about as, the months go on, because we saw what Hagrid's is looking like. So there's a lot that we get to talk about on the show, and obviously with your other 17 shows going on. I heard rumors still that there's a Broadway show coming from you, but we'll see.
Okay, 2 quick things before we go. We always talk about Easter eggs, hidden in attractions.
Yeah.
Again, I'm pretty sure this is Alicia who found these, but it supposedly in the rockwork for the Velocicoaster, you can see raptor eggs. So, which
Yes.
I thought was a cool touch. And I know there were a lot of Disney fans who complained about the NBA bubble, but I do want to say something in their defense right now, because it's the interesting thing is that when Disney announced, the 28,000 cast member layoff, there were in fact, I want to say, several coaches and several players who actually reached out to cast members that they knew, because they took such good care of them while they were in the NBA bubble. And it's like to the effect of, I'm so sorry to hear this. Is there anything we can do? Can we help your family? Would you like a job? Can you get me your resume?
Yeah.
And, so again, there are people out there who are behaving decently. So just be aware of that, folks. So, all right. So, Dustin, if I'm looking for you on social media, where do I find you?
Yeah, I'm at Steps to Magic, Instagram, Facebook, all that other stuff. I'm also at Wi-Fi Adventures, which is the new project. And obviously, I'm just, anytime anyone wants to talk Universal, just head on Instagram, send me a DM. We'll talk Universal. It's good times.
Okay. And Nancy would like me to remind you that if you could do us a favor, head over to iTunes and rate and recommend the show, Universal Joint. That would be incredibly helpful. And if you really, really, really like what you heard here today, if you get How to Bandcamp and subscribe, again, that would be great. Also, our social media stuff, Nancy wants to remind you that you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Jim Hill Media and on Facebook at Jim Hill Media News. And now I got to go make dinner here, so I'm going to hop online and see if I can find a recipe for stolen teeth. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, just get something strawberry and a little chocolate ganache, and you'll be good.
Yeah, that's again, boy, that's a perfect recipe for a diabetic. Okay, thank you, folks. We'll be back soon.